Alright everybody, here we go, the May 1989, the first weekend of the summer movie season, and of course, this is when you get all the big blockbusters coming out. I mean, look at what we're getting this year, in 2022. What's the first big blockbuster that's going to open up on May 6, 2022? Of course, it's going to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which looks incredible, by the way. But what about 32 years ago? What was the first big movie that came out in May of 1989? What was the big movie that kicked off the summer movie season? That movie was...
Than football.
They live in a world where words mean everything.
Meaner than ice hockey.
Where argument is the weapon of choice.
And because women can play at it...
You're to answer. You're supposed to be brilliant.
Just as down and dirty as the men.
Haven't you ever heard of the women's movement?
Yeah, but I wish I had.
It's probably the scariest, most fascinating sport on the face of the planet.
There isn't anyone they can't talk to.
I don't want to be Tucker's debate partner.
We usually end up debating each other instead of our opponents. Yeah, well, I don't think I want to be your partner either.
Except each other.
Shut up, okay? I'm sort of liking this.
What would you say if I told you that you could be debating in front of the Supreme Court this spring?
Sometimes I think I'm not going to make it.
You know as well as I, they don't stand a chance.
Don't be too sure of that.
Kirk Cameron.
You didn't make that up, did you?
Jamie Gertz. Roy Scheider. They sought victory at any cost and passion at any price. Listen to me.
Yeah, definitely a different movie than Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. This was back when the summer movie season actually started on Memorial Day weekend, and it wasn't until, like, the mid-90s, late 90s, when someone finally decided, let's move the summer movie season up to the start of May. So you still had a couple of weeks of, like, mediocre movies, and case in point here, Listen to Me, which is the biggest new wide release, because it's got Kirk Cameron in it. Kirk Cameron was a successful actor at the time, on Growing Pains. He was a hot commodity. Everyone thought he was going to be the next big star. Well, he was the next big star, but yeah, this movie comes out of the popularity of Kirk Cameron's time on Growing Pains. You also have Jamie Gertz, a young rising actor at the time, Roy Scheider from Jaws. And this movie was pretty forgettable. Like, honestly, this movie was really forgettable. In fact, when you really look at it, it seemed like the biggest thing. It seemed like this movie didn't know what it wanted to be. It wanted to be anything other than a generic, uplifting coming-of-age story. In fact, I saw here that the movie was actually the marketing was gonna focus on Kirk Cameron because he was at the height of his popularity at the time. However, the producer Jimmy Weintraub overrode that and said, let's focus on the fact that the movie is dealing with the debate on abortion, and it just wasn't. It just didn't do anything. Nobody really wanted to go see it. It's funny because I think Roe vs. Wade with Holly Hunter came out around the same time as this did, and that was on NBC. So people could just go and watch that on TV for free instead of having to go out and see this. And it was pretty clear that this movie was not going to make any money whatsoever. Maybe if the movie actually was good, or maybe the movie wasn't so hokey, maybe they would have had stuff in here, but you saw the trailer for this. It looks pretty bad. It looks pretty bad. Kirk Cameron has like a bad accent in this movie from Oklahoma. He sounds like he's supposed to be like from Oklahoma, and he's got this really terrible accent in this movie. Yeah, it's not a good movie. It's not a good movie whatsoever. And this was not a good weekend for movies because there was only one other movie that came out that weekend, and that was Getting It Right.
Have you ever played a game called Secrets? I'm so terrified of the dark that I can't even go to bed with someone I love with the lights out.
I'm 31 and I've never been to bed with anybody. Aren't you wearing anything?
It's dirty to get into people's beds with your clothes on. I sort of feel I know about life, well, as much as I can manage. It's art I don't know about.
Prepare yourself for a refreshing change of pace.
I must say, you are someone who makes the least of everything that happens to you.
A rarity among 20th century men.
You worry a lot about other people's feelings, don't you?
Gavin Lamb. He lives at home.
What's this, Mum? This looks like a hippo's tooth.
That is the Brazil nut, I should imagine.
He loves his work.
I understand from my daughter that you mess about with people's hair.
I once bit someone who tried to comb my hair.
It's all Getting It Right, starring Lynn Redgrave, Helena Bonham Carter.
Thanks for having me.
Peter Cook.
Don't worry, Lady Stanton. If needs be, we can pull Gavin off one of our other ladies.
Jesse Birdsall as Gavin.
I don't love you, you see, but I'll still be your friend.
And Sir John Gielgud as Lord Monday.
I'm impressed with you. I really am.
Getting It Right, a modern comedy for all those who've been getting it wrong.
From the director of Grease and The Blue Lagoon, who would later go on to do movies such as Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, White Fang, also did Flight of the Navigator, Big Top Pee-wee, Randall Kleiser. This is a pretty good, decent director, and this is a pretty decent movie from the little bit that I've seen of it. You got Jesse Birdsall, Jane Horrocks, Helena Bonham Carter, John Gielgud, Lynn Redgrave, Peter Cook. It's a little Britishy, but it works for what it is. It's nothing too special, but I enjoy it. I think it's an enjoyable movie. I think it did a better job of doing this kind of a story than Loverboy the previous week did. So, again, I can't really say a whole lot more on it. I've only seen like little bits and pieces of it before, and I've seen it looks pretty good. So, I enjoy it for what it is. So I'll just leave it with that. So, that's really about it.
Just like if you were trying to pass for white.
You mean I'm not white?
Oh, sit down.
It feels like it.
You're blind.
Yes, I'm blind.
I have no idea. I'm sorry. You're really blind?
Yes. What are you, deaf?
Yes, I'm deaf.
How do you know what I'm saying?
Because I'm reading your lips. Wally, there's a gun here.
Don't touch it. Hey! Get rid of it.
The deaf guy, he's not so sure about the woman. And the blind guy, he heard the shot.
What the hell is he talking about?
He reads lips. You're talking too fast.
Was there or wasn't there a woman?
Are you serious? Fuzzy Wuzzy was a woman?
This guy's blind as a bat. Oh, watch your step. What's the matter with you? I don't know what you're looking for, but it's a little to the right.
I'm going to give you the first hit. Now, come on. Aim for 12 o'clock. Aim for 12. 11 o'clock.
We should hang out like this more often. All right. What you make
Forward. Wally, go forward.
How am I doing?
So as I said, this is the third pairing between Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, the first being Silver Streak in 1976, which the director of that movie also directed this movie, and then you had Stir Crazy in 1980, and then this is the first movie they did together in 9 years, and they would pair up again 2 years later for Another You, which was not a big hit at the box office, but we'll get to that one when we get to 1991, but see no evil, hear no evil. Of course, the gimmick here is that Richard Pryor is playing a blind man and Gene Wilder is playing a deaf guy. And this is certainly nowhere near the greatness of Stir Crazy or even something like Silver Streak, but it is still a fun movie. Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder worked together very well. They were pretty much the 80s equivalent of a comedy duo. Like, whenever they made a movie, they could make it work, regardless whether or not the movie ends up being as good or not, but this movie really was not. It kind of follows a generic plot. You can kind of figure out where it's going to go almost immediately. And, but like I said, Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor make it work. The comedy in here can work really well. I like their pairing together. I like Kevin Spacey a lot in this movie. I like Joan Severance. Alan North plays the captain in this movie. He's very good. And, you could tell the movie, I think if Gene Wilder had more control over the script, I know he rewrote the original script beforehand, but I think if he actually had a hand in writing the script more, maybe this could have worked out a lot better, but, yeah, overall, overall, a good movie, not one of the better Pryor and Wilder pairings. It's still got a lot of moments that I'd say it's worth a watch if you like the other pairings between him and these two, Silver Streak and Stir Crazy, but it's definitely not on those same levels. So overall, good movie, but could have been a whole lot better. So let's go ahead and move on to the second comedy that came out this weekend, the cult hit Earth Girls Are Easy.
She's a brunette from Southern California, and he's not.
I need romance. I need surprises. Are UFO landed in my pool. They captured me. I fed them Pop Tarts, but you've got to cut their hair.
What did you say?
They may be from outer space.
So? They could still be dates.
I think we could just make them look more sort of human.
Hey, come on, everybody. We're doing a makeover.
But underneath, they're more than human.
Wow, you're incredible.
I could fix you up with some bodacious chicks just like that.
I can't believe you're renting an alien in front of all these people.
Gina Davis, Julie Brown, and Jeff Goldblum in a film directed by Julian Temple and produced by Tony Garnett.
I just don't want you to think Earth girls are easy.
Earth girls are easy.
Imagine being Gina Davis and you just won the Academy Award for The Accidental Tourist, and then this is your next movie that comes out after that. I mean, talk about a difference between The Accidental Tourist and Earth Girls Are Easy. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because this movie was a ton of fun. I had a blast watching this movie. It is so ridiculous. It is so over the top. It's so ridiculously stupid, but it knows it's stupid. It knows what it's trying to be. It knows what it is. And I just found it really hilarious. You got Gina Davis, you got Julie Brown, you got Jeff Goldblum, you've got Jim Carrey, you've got Damon Wayans. I mean, what more do you need, man? And Jeff Goldblum, Damon Wayans, and Jim Carrey are dressed up in these outfits, these weird-looking outfits that they're supposed to be aliens, but they look like multicolored chickens in a way. But it's still, man, like this is so goofy, it's so fun, and it doesn't really get a whole lot of attention. I feel like it's like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure earlier in the year. It's like, it's stupid, it's ridiculous, but at least it knows it's stupid. This one really knows it's stupid, and it's having the time of its life doing it. So, yeah, it's a really funny movie. It's one that I don't think a lot of people really talk about all that much, but when I watched it a couple of years ago, I was pleasantly surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I had a really good time watching this movie. So over the top, so ridiculous, so hilarious. Earth Girls Are Easy. I mean, what more do you say, man? You gotta check it out if you haven't seen it already. I highly recommend checking it out if you're looking for a good, fun, over-the-top, silly comedy set around these aliens. So, yeah, Earth Girls Are Easy. Pretty fun movie.
Drink? Guess not.
Patrick Swayze is Dalton. I thought you'd be bigger.
Opinions vary.
When he's around, anything can happen.
How's a guy like you end up bouncing?
Just lucky, I guess.
And usually does. If somebody gets in your face, I want you to be nice.
Don't be rude. Ask him to walk, but be nice. Help this gentleman to the door.
Until it's time to not be nice.
I guess you'll be having that fire sale now, all right?
Got your hands full, kid.
I just think I'm looking at a dead man.
Patrick Swayze.
For that line of work, I thought you'd be bigger.
Gee, I've never heard that before.
Roadhouse.
Or as Peter Griffin would say, Roadhouse. What more can you say? It's friggin' Roadhouse, man. It's 80s action, cheesy, good time. I'm not even making words right now, but that's pretty much what Roadhouse is. It's a cheesy, good, fun, over-the-top action film that is, I mean, it knows what it is. It's one of those movies that came out around this time that knows exactly what it's trying to be. Just, it's not meant to be taken seriously at all. It's supposed to be like this insane, fun, cheesy, over-the-top, fun adventure film, and it definitely is. It definitely is. It's definitely one of Patrick Swayze's most notable films, and for pretty much a good reason. Like, it's really hard not to like this movie. I mean, you could say, yeah, it's cliched, it's very generic story-wise, but it's just fun, man. It's just a fun, cheesy 80s action film. I mean, that's what it sells you. That's what it is, man. Like, it's just, I've got nothing else to say about it. It's just a fun, over-the-top, cheesy 80s action movie. It's got Patrick Swayze. What more do you need? Roadhouse. That's all I gotta say. So let's move on to the next movie, which is How I Got Into College.
Or getting into college.
How do you think you did, Marlon?
I don't know.
Sure you did fine.
Hey!
Your skin will crawl, your heart will pound, your teeth will chatter, your bladder will fail, your brain will melt and run out of your nose. When one student tells how I got into college.
Last year, a girl took up professional wrestling and she got into Yale.
Remember when I said Roadhouse knew exactly what it was and what it was trying to be? Here's a movie that I think is trying to tell you what it's trying to be, but it's not really doing a good job at it. I mean, it's a comedy, but they sell it as more of as like a horror comedy in a way. You follow the movie's main premise is that you have this girl Jessica, played by a pre-practice Laura Flynn Boyle. Actually, this is pre-Wayne's World. She's in this movie. It's her attempt to get into Ramsey College, and Marlon's the boy in this, Corey Parker, and they just it's a weird comedy. Like, it tries to sell you, it's selling it to you as like a horror comedy in a way like a 50s style horror movie, but not even a 50s style horror movie, a 50s style horror comedy. But the movie itself really doesn't have an identity to it. It's trying to be. The movie itself is trying to be more like a traditional romantic comedy in a way, but I don't know. It just didn't work for me. Like, it didn't really work. You also have Anthony Edwards in here. You got a lot of cameos from notable people. Tom Kenny has a cameo in here. It's his first film role. Of course, he would go on to play characters like SpongeBob and Cat Dog from Cat Dog and all those, and a lot of other people. You also have Charles Rocket in here, Brian Doyle Murray, Philip Baker Hall, Tashina Arnold, Phil Hartman, and Nora Dunner in this movie. Did I say Brian Doyle Murray? Brian Doyle Murray's in this because why not? But, I mean, yeah, when I watched this movie the first time a couple of years ago, it really let me down. Like, I thought maybe this was going to be like, I thought there was going to be like a gag to it, but no, it's a straightforward story. I don't know why they would sell the movie this way that it is, but I didn't get any enjoyment out of it. I'm sure a lot of people didn't either. Not many people talk about it. There's probably a good reason why. So there you go. That's my thoughts on how I got into college. Let's move on to the next movie, which is Fright Night 2.
Tired of good girls?
Good night, Charlie.
Ready for some real excitement? Looking for someone incredibly seductive?
Do you know how to use your lips, Charlie?
Rescue me, or take me in your arms.
Then this is your lucky night.
Welcome to Fright Night.
Fright Night 2.
Maybe it's the full moon, Charlie.
And every kiss is a killer. Roddy McDowell, William Ragsdale.
Do you mind if I borrow these?
If you thought one was fun, wait till you do two. Fright Night 2.
Again, much like How I Got Into College, this was a movie that I think is trying to sell itself as something completely different than what it actually is. This is, of course, a sequel to the original Fright Night from 1985. You only have Roddy McDowell and William Ragsdale reprising their roles from the first movie. And, it's basically just the same movie as the first movie, except you have two different people in different scenarios, and it's just like, it's a sequel that suffers from sequelitis. It's basically, like I said, it's just the same movie as the first one. I will say the visuals were pretty nice. The effects in this movie, the practical effects look pretty good. The bits of comedy, they're alright. Like, I do like there's a little bit of comedy involved in this, but other than that, though, this is pretty forgettable. Like, the original Fright Night had a lot of moments that stood out very well, but this one's just kind of like, here we go again, we're just going to do the same thing all over again, and it definitely doesn't have that same feel as the first movie did, so that's just my personal take on Fright Night Part 2. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie, Miracle Mile.
Well, hello.
We must have been meant to be together. It's too bad you have to work tonight.
Only till midnight.
Fate is a funny thing.
Take a nap, because you're going to need all your energy tonight.
It was one of those strange nights.
finally meet the right girl and you blow it.
That could ruin your whole day. In a big way.
Dad, it's happening. This is it. This is really it. This is the big one.
This is a joke, right?
It's really happening.
This can't be true.
We'll all be dead if we don't get out of here. Nobody believes this, do they?
Not me. Not Spongy.
Make a list for me. People who would want to bring along.
We gotta get Julie. Who's Julie?
Julie! I love you.
But nothing could prepare you for an experience like this.
What is it, Junkyard?
Miracle Mile.
Listen, I'm just a guy who picked up the phone.
Interesting that this came out in the late 80s, considering that the start of the 80s, we had so many of these movies about the apocalypse and the end of the world. You know, The Day After and Testament and all those type of movies. Actually, this movie has been lying in development hell for the longest time. I think I read it was about 10 years. Warner Brothers was originally going to do it, but Warner Brothers wanted to make it a big scale movie, but Warner Brothers didn't want to trust this director, who was a first time director on here. And so he had to this director had to fund the movie himself, I think I'm pronouncing it right, Steve DeJarnot, I think it is. But, you know, I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, this movie really came out of nowhere for me, and I gotta say, I was really impressed by it. I like the way that they shoot that this movie is shot in real time. It doesn't feel fake whatsoever. The visual look of the movie is very stylish. I like the cast in this movie. You've got Anthony Edwards, this is the second movie that came out this weekend after How I Got Into College. You also have Mayor Willingham, Michael Williamson, Denise Crosby, Peter Berg, Kurt Fuller is in there, Lucille Bliss. And, yeah, I like the visual style of this movie. I like the way this movie looks. I like the way the film built up a lot of tension. There's a lot of great acting in this movie. It's definitely a very underrated movie. I don't think a lot of people really talk about it all that much, but yeah, I think it's a really good movie. You can definitely find it somewhere out there on Blu-ray or DVD. I highly recommend checking out Miracle Mile. It might be even online, too. I haven't checked as of right now, but if it is, I'd highly recommend checking it out. So that's my thoughts on Miracle Mile. There was one more movie that came out this weekend for Queen and Country, starring Denzel Washington. I was trying to find the trailer for it while I was looking for the trailers for the other movies that came out this weekend, but I couldn't find any. I could only find some clips, and, I mean, for the clips that I've seen on there, I mean, it looks alright. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it. I didn't even want to bother putting it in there if I can't find the trailer for it. So
We're about to complete a great quest, the Holy Grail, Dr. Jones.
Oh, rats.
This is it. Look, the shield is the second mark. We found it.
Indiana Jones is on the quest of a lifetime. But for some adventures, one Jones is not enough.
Dad? Junior? Don't call me that, please.
Follow me! I know the way! A race across 3 continents.
And in this sort of race, there's no silver medal for finishing second.
Hang on, Dad, we're going in! Into the homeland of the enemy.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Our situation has not improved.
In his search for the Holy Grail.
How dare you kiss me?
Are you crazy? Don't go between them!
Go between them, are you crazy?
Where's my father?
In the belly of that steel beast. Dad! Junior!
You call this archaeology? The quest for the Grail is not archaeology. It's a race against evil.
Germany has declared war on the Jones boys.
Those people are trying to kill us.
I know, Dad!
It's a new experience for me. Happens to me all the time.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Have the adventure of your life. Keeping up with the Joneses.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is, of course, the third installment of the Indiana Jones franchise. It's the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, because remember, Temple of Doom was a prequel. And in terms of the Indiana Jones movies, Raiders of the Lost Ark will always be the pinnacle movie, the best overall movie from the franchise. But I gotta say, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade over the years has really grown on me. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm gonna say something controversial here, but honestly, I really don't care. I don't think Temple of Doom is probably the worst of the Indiana Jones movies. I mean, it's not a bad movie per se, but like there's just so many elements to it that don't really work as well as the first movie did, and there are great moments that are in there, like the last climax on the bridge is great. But other than that, though, it doesn't have that spark that Raiders of the Lost Ark had. I prefer Kingdom of the Crystal Skull better than I was about to say Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. Like, I think Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a much better movie than Temple of Doom. That's my take on it, but we'll get to that one. We'll delve more into that when we get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull about 20 years from now. But let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, which I said before, it's a movie that's definitely grown on me over the years. Like, I remember liking it a lot the first time I saw it about 15 years ago when I started watching all the Indiana Jones movies back to back to get ready for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But nowadays, I really have grown to love The Last Crusade, almost to the point where it sometimes goes above Raiders of the Lost Ark for me in terms of my personal favorite movie in the series. It's really hard to tell because both of these movies, both that one, Raiders and Last Crusade, are so unique and so well done in their own special way. Like, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade just suckers you in right away. It has this great opening that takes place in the early 1910s with the young Indiana Jones, played here by River Phoenix, and of course was the inspiration later for the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles series that came out in the 1990s. And it's this great sequence where Indiana Jones, as a Boy Scout, sees these robbers, tries to stop them from stealing stuff, and then they go on this circus train chase. It's great. And then at the end, the robbers actually end up winning the battle, and Indiana Jones is just so devastated and all that. The scene could have ended right there, and it would have been a great scene, but that's the great thing about Steven Spielberg, man. He knows what he's doing when it comes to making the moment stay etched in your brain for a long time. There's a great moment that happens in between when the robbers catch up to Indy and when we get to Indiana Jones in present day, this movie's present day, and I'll show you that right here. Take a look.
You lost today, kid. But it doesn't mean you have to like it.
That scene alone is just one of the many reasons why I love this movie so much, because that scene just works so well. You have this robber telling this young Indiana Jones, "Hey, you lost today, but you know what? You don't have to, that doesn't mean you have to like it." And I like how that's good enough for him to be motivated to become the Indiana Jones that we know and love. But when you add him giving the hat going over the face, and that booming music by John Williams when he goes with the Indiana Jones theme, bum 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 bum, and the way it's just slowly building, and then it cuts to Harrison Ford in the rain with like blood and all that, because he's in the middle of a fight scene in that point, and that punch right there, it's just great. It's just a great transition. It's one of those great transitions that just gives you goosebumps every time, and just at that point, you're ready to go for whatever adventure follows after that. And sure enough, this movie has a lot of great action sequences in this, great use of practical effects. I like the chemistry of Sean Connery and Harrison Ford as father and son. And even though Sean Connery and Harrison Ford are pretty much in the same age bracket, kind of. I mean, Harrison Ford and Sean Connery were like 12 years apart in age. Sean Connery was born in 30. Harrison Ford was born in 42, so yeah, at first it seems like, okay, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Sean Connery and Harrison Ford as father and son, what did he have him when he was like a 10-year-old or something? But here it actually works. Like, here the age factor doesn't really play a part, because you just really like their chemistry together, Sean Connery and Harrison Ford. It works so well as father and son here in this movie. And I also like how they're able to, like, recapture magic of the first movie by having a lot of the old gang back together again. Like Denholm Elliott is back again in this movie playing Marcus Brody, and then you have Salah, but John Rhys Davies coming back in here as well. I like the way they incorporate them back into the story. That by the end of the movie, they're all working together to try to finish the mission, finish what the adventure is, and it leads to a lot. Like I said, it leads to a lot of great moments, a lot of funny moments. This movie does a good job of balancing the more silly comedic moments along with the more dramatic moments. Like it's not afraid to balance it out and make for a great entertaining movie. Like I love the tank action sequence in this. I love how when the tank is falling, you just see the guy in the tank screaming as the tank is just literally coming down. He has this face like he just has this cartoonish looking face, but I can't help it. It's so hilarious. It's hilarious every time I see that face. It's just like it's like one of those sequences. It's like one of those times when you want to stop the scene and be like, and have someone go, "Yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation," because that's what it really feels like to me. And then you get to the temple scene where Indiana Jones has to go into the room with and find the Holy Grail. So they go through these 3 different traps, and Indiana Jones's father has been shot by the bad guys. So Indiana Jones has to go in there and make clear the pathway so the bad guys can get in there. And it's a well done sequence. My favorite part of that sequence is the bridge scene, like where Indiana Jones is walking through. He finds that he has to go through this gap, and it looks like there's no way you can get there. But just watch the scene you're about to see here. And I'll talk about why this scene is so great. I wasn't in the theater to see this movie because obviously I was only about 5 months old. I'm pretty sure people erupted when his foot landed on there and he didn't fall off. I mean, just a great sequence right there, and I like how the camera actually moves to show you that there was a bridge there, and you're not able to see it, but it's literally a leap of faith. Like you have to trust yourself to know that there's a pathway there, and I just love the way that scene is shot and like the way the music again ramps up. This is some of John Williams' best music right here. This is such a great scene, and it's just a great scene overall. And then after that, of course, we get the Holy Grail scene, which is a great scene which features some really good practical effects of the bad guy melting as he picks the wrong Grail, and then Indy grabs the right one and saves his father. And as they're about to take the Grail out, the temple starts to collapse, and Indiana's trying to save Elsa from getting trying to save Elsa, but Elsa wants that Grail, and every time she tries to get close to it, the last time she does it, she ends up falling over and ends up dying. Now that scene right there could have been, I don't know if it could have been perfect, but it could have easily ended there, and people would have been like, okay, that's to be expected. But the great thing about, the great thing about Steven Spielberg as a director is that he knows when to keep going and exactly when to stop. And what's great about what follows next, this scene right here that follows afterwards, not a lot of people talk about it, but it's a great moment. You got to check this out.
Junior, give me your other hand. I can't hold on.
I can get it. I can almost reach it, Dad.
Indiana. Indiana.
Well, first off, Elsa should have done this. I'm sorry, I had to do that. Yeah, I just had to do that. But in all seriousness, that moment where Indiana Jones' father is just telling him, let it go, that could have easily been a good moment, but the fact that he goes, Indiana, Indiana, let it go. And the fact that he has not called his son that at all during the movie. It's always been Junior and all that stuff, but that moment right there when Indiana Jones is risking his life for this legendary cup, thinking that it's going to help him connect more with his father, he realizes that after all these years of collecting these artifacts and leaving this family behind, that his father knows what's important in life, and so that creates this unique bond between them. It's just such a great moment, and after Sean Connery passed away, this moment really just became something entirely different. It makes that stand out so well with this movie, and it's one of those moments where not a lot of people really talk about it, but it's one of the great moments ever in these Indiana Jones movies. Like, just that little moment there. Like I said before, that's what Steven Spielberg does best. He knows when enough is enough, and that was just enough right there. That you didn't need a whole lot there. You just needed Sean Connery to just say, let it go. And then that's it. That's all you needed to do. And it's just such a brilliant scene. It's just one of those great things that makes this movie grow with me a lot more. I've really grown to appreciate this movie a lot more in the years since I saw it the first time. And I think a lot of people really have too. If you haven't seen Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, you definitely really should give it another shot and really go into it. Really go into it expecting a lot more, because it really is a lot more than a lot of people, I think, give it credit for. It's a very well-made film. It's one of Steven Spielberg's most enjoyable movies, I think. It's the second best. It usually varies between my favorite and my second favorite Indiana Jones movie in the series. It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark will always be the pinnacle moment of this franchise, but the pinnacle movie of this franchise. But Last Crusade is just as good, if not sometimes better. It's such a wonderful movie. It's definitely worth checking out again. I highly recommend anybody that hasn't seen it already, or even if you have seen it already, watch it again, because it definitely is worth a rewatch, and it's definitely a great way to start this movie season that we're about to get into here. So that's my full thoughts on Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. A definitely fantastic movie. Definitely check it out.